He got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think that'll happen.
I don't either.
I don't think the UFC
that would be
fights.
amazing, mate. There's one fighter I think that needs to be at 155. One fighter that can beat all of these guys with his hands. Hello, welcome back to the Ultimate Fighting Casuals. Wow, what a fucking insane weekend of fights again. It feels so good to go 2 weekends with just 2 banging fights. 2021 is officially off with a fucking bang, mate.
So kicking off the pay-per-view this year, McGregor, Poirier 2. What a scrap. Poirier getting the finish in the second round and looked incredible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, looked great, mate. I mean, I can't believe I saw McGregor get knocked out. That in general, I mean, people don't realise what that really means. And I mean, if you watched a lot of McGregor, especially in his early days, I wasn't around, but I've sure gone back and watched the fights, and he's a knockout artist. That's what he's for, right? Absolutely. We all know he's got that capability. It's in his locker. That's the only thing I think, also when we spoke last week, that we spoke about McGregor doing. I know you said potentially a decision. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it would even get that far, just because I think both of them are good at knockouts and that sort of style of like insane boxing level, if you like. But fuck, man, to actually see McGregor get knocked out in that way, Poirier looked amazing though. I do want to focus on that more, just to say, before we people can post all the memes about McGregor. I know it's memes, but at the end of the day, he stepped in the octagon, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And let's praise Poirier, because wow, what an amazing fight he fought there. What do you think about just what he done? What do you think he done right in starters? What did he do to actually best him?
So in terms of, I did actually talk about it at the end of the last video, the key for Poirier had to be the wrestling in the first round. He needed to get him tired and test that cardio. And what I didn't see, obviously shout out to Dan Hardy, was the leg kicks and the work that he did to shut off the power, the way he plants his power, being McGregor, in his front leg, just completely useless.
That is actually what I think is the key to him getting the knockout. I think it's almost like a snowball effect in that way. I think the leg kicks or the leg damage, whatever you want to say it shall be, is the reason why it allowed a knockout to happen, because you could see McGregor stood up after that first round, and I think that's because he had a dead leg. I didn't want to sit down on it and lose that. He wanted to stay up and stay on it, and I thought, I don't know if he was trying to be cocky and show his cardio, but you saw him like after the fight and like the press conference, after the press conference, like way after the fight, he could barely walk on that. Like that was really gone. Like if you're that damaged for that long, your leg is completely gone. I think that's. Like you said, also Poirier controlling the wrestling, sort of the first round controlled the location of the fight and where it was. I just think with that sort of physical dominance on top of McGregor, pushed him up against the cage, destroying his front leg. Wow, that's a really impressive way to break down McGregor, and I think Poirier did it exactly how he had to.
In terms of the performance as well, you see him slipping out, catching him with something and pointing at him. And it was that McGregor is known for bringing the fight to you and pressing, but Poirier was able to slip off of where the big combinations were coming, land, and just disgruntle McGregor enough to start being able to use the leg kicks, and obviously used his wrestling well. Once the tides turned and he dissolved the pressure,
that is it, isn't it? Tides turn. That's literally the way it is. Because I said, and whether I was watching it from a biased point of view, whatever, I do think McGregor edged out the first round, just because it was a very close round, regardless of who you think edged it out. Extremely close round in terms of both of them giving it back. You didn't I didn't think from that first round, Poirier's going to knock him out. I actually thought, you know what, McGregor could knock him out. He clipped him a few times. Absolutely. There was a few times you saw Poirier was completely, not completely rocked, that's not the right word, but he was rocked a little bit. And like you said, with the sort of calling back at some stuff and checking stuff, or not checking stuff on McGregor's side, and not checking the leg kicks properly, or properly is the right word, because he was trying to check some of them, but they were still landing, they were still catching, and I think if McGregor does want another fight with this, that's what he's got to work on, because Poirier, that dominated him, that made him dominate the fight. So how do you combat that as your McGregor? You haven't gone against that style in that way, right? Has he?
No, absolutely, and I think we saw leg kicks being used well against him in the Diaz fight, in the second one, in terms of point scoring, and just to kind of slow and halt McGregor. His massive part of his game is his movement and setting up the left hand around it, and I don't think he was aggressive enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was a little bit still on his feet in a way. He could have been a little bit more lighter, a bit quicker sort of with it. And I think, what you just said then was so important, because with his leg, it sets up his hand, right? So so you take that away, you take the hand away. Do you reckon that was Poirier's plan, from the beginning, from the outset?
No, absolutely, and I think that you see it, because it's not just the power in terms of being able to step on that front foot and land. It's the movement as well, and McGregor is so good at stepping in and out and bouncing through ranges in getting people to explode onto him. Look at Jose Aldo in terms of how he came forward, faked a jab, stepped back, and that left hook just put him out
straight out. Yeah, knocked him out.
And that weapon was just taken from McGregor, and I think with the octagon rust, I think that was shown
massively.
I don't think fighting the few times he has been good for him.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think that I don't like excuses, right? But I also don't like people pretending that it doesn't affect fighters. To say that, you know, he fought Cerrone for what, a minute 40 seconds. Yeah. Before that, it was Khabib. So it's Khabib in 4 years, really. That's the only fight. The Cerrone is the only other one, and the crowd was there. It was all hyped up. He was probably, you know, we all sort of knew he was going to beat him, and the knockout was really sort of written in the stars, wasn't it? Before it, you know, the writing was already on the wall. And I think, you know what, whilst it's not a full excuse, I think you can use that as an excuse. You can say, look, the ring rust was clearly there. It was clearly there. Whether that, like, I don't think that was the reason Poirier won.
No.
I don't think that's the reason McGregor lost, just simply down to ring rust. But it's an absolute factor. And to just be like, no, don't use excuses. He's meant to be like this elite level fighter. Like, no, that does affect people.
Absolutely.
You step in an octagon once in 4 years, that affects you. Simple as that, mate.
Especially against the highest level, like Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nowhere to hide.
Nope.
So moving on to the co-main, we have Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler.
Sorry, Mars.
Didn't go well for me at all.
The knee didn't happen, mate.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
In fact, it was the other way around. He got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
Wow. Just Chandler. I'm so impressed. I really am. Like, you there's a lot to say about Chandler in terms of, you know, personality wise, that sort of whole like cocky confidence. He very much gives me like Covington vibes. Really, like,
a little
strong,
bit. Yeah,
really
I get
strong
that.
for me. I do get that off of him. And just really super impressive stuff. Like going back on the day and watching loads of his fights, you know, watching that insane, is it suplex?
Yeah,
suplex,
belly
just watching some of his insane clips and highlights. I'm sure many fans did the same thing when he was coming to UFC. Just going to see all that stuff, and he absolutely lived up to that for me. Yeah. What about you?
Well, like, we didn't see much of the explosive wrestling that I thought would be the factor that would beat Dan Hooker. All we saw was him absolutely boss the stand-up, and fair play. You literally can't say fairer than that. He's announced himself in the UFC with a fantastic win over a really, really tough guy.
Yeah.
You can see his credentials with his fights against Poirier and Felder. His striking is absolutely no joke, and he can take a shot. Yeah. So for Chandler to announce himself in the way that he did shows you his explosive power, and the matches to come are insane.
The potential now is absolutely unbelievable, because Chandler's just not... He's not only shown himself as a wrestler, which is what you thought was the only thing that could beat Hooker, and I didn't even disagree with that. I actually agreed with that. I thought, you know what, like, if he's really going to beat him, he's probably not going to knock him out. Especially after, I thought this has to be mentioned. Something you told me, actually. Hooker, one thing after the Poirier fight, it was so disappointing in his defence, right? And, well, obviously that sort of... Well, he didn't really fucking improve much. No. Did he? He got worse, if that. Yeah. You know, it was worse defence if you look at it like that. And it's just... For Chandler to actually come in with that levels of confidence against Hooker, because like you said, Hooker's no pushover, right? He's got the credentials. That is a tough fight as a top 5 in the division for absolute fact. It's coming to do it in such a way to knock him out, to not just wrestle him and dominate on that floor, and to dominate in a different way. It gives Chandler so much more brownie points now. I mean, it boosts his stock massively, especially against the likes of people like Poirier or whatever it could be, because they're the boxing guys, they're the fighting guys, and Hooker is on that fighting guy list for me too. I thought Hooker was going to really like box him up, fight him up.
I agree.
And he didn't bring it, and that's a shame for Hooker. It's a real shame, and I don't know what's next for him. I know, obviously, as a fan, sort of what do you expect from Hooker now? What does he do after being knocked out by Chandler?
So I think that there's a few ways he could go. You've got Diaz calling his name, but with McGregor fighting and Poirier as well, he's been linked with those fights, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, it scares me, because I don't want Hooker to slip out too much.
No.
So I think he does a little bit now. He might miss out on a couple of these, because it's... Look, the Poirier loss was a fucking great fight, right? And it's sort of one of those losses where, it's a loss, but then if you were to look into the loss more, you sort of understand it a bit more, and you're like, okay, right, this is a formidable loss. And then when you look at 2 across 12 months, and it's against guys that are above them, it does slip him down. Where does he go? What does he do? I feel sorry for Dan, I really do.
I do, and I think there's a big difference between getting finished and knocked out and losing a decision like he did against Poirier. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Look, he might have to take quite a hard fight against somebody like a Makachev or a Dos Anjos coming up the division with wins and that are hungry to get up there and prove themselves again. So it's going to be tough for him, but it's the UFC.
I hope it isn't the end of Hooker.
I don't think it will be.
Especially after the gloves coming off. That's what, like I said, that's what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
That's what the whole thing. I just hope it isn't the end of him, because I think Hooker has a lot to offer. He may not be, in that top S tier, with the, potentially Chandler, but Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira, whatever, but he's definitely just below it. And he can still break into it. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? I just hope this isn't the end for Hooker. And hope, fingers crossed it won't be.
I agree.
Okay, so we're not going to break down like the prelims or the whole card too much because this 155 division is looking fucking bomb, right? We have got a lot to say just about MMA math and where things could end up and whatever the fuck. So let's just get talking about it. Mm-hmm. My out there prediction or out there statement, you could say, is I think Poirier is the champ of that division. I think he is the best in that division. I do think he not beats everyone in terms of putting one after the other. He might lose one or two, whatever. But I do think he's better than all of them on a 1-to-1 matchup. I think that. Look, whether they should just go ahead and give him the belt straight away is a different sort of conversation, different question. But I do think he's the champ of that division. Obviously, assuming Khabib has retired, we have to go off of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Assuming I do think Poirier is next, sort of in line. So I think if we are talking about a potential title fight for his next fight or a next fight in that division, Poirier's name absolutely first on the list.
Absolutely. I think we have to look at Gaethje as well, in terms of looking at the other elite striker in this division who's got wins and looks incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I know Poirier knocked him out. I get that, and it was a few years ago though, and I think that fight again, that could be such a formidable, great fight. The striking, that's what I'm trying to look at. Stars make fights, don't they?
Absolutely.
And we saw what Gaethje's stand-up fight with Ferguson looked like, and I think it could look similar with Poirier, and not in terms of who would win. I just mean in terms of the bloodiness, the rawness, the standing up and fucking throwing hands at each other's faces for 25 minutes straight. That's what I mean.
Absolutely. So looking at what's next for Chandler is really exciting for me because obviously the performance over Hooker that we touched on. I think what's next for him, I'd really like to see him fight either Charles Oliveira or Gaethje. What I'd like to see for the title, I'd like to see 2 more fights. I'd like to see Chandler versus Charles Oliveira, and I'd like to see Gaethje Poirier, and I'd like to see the winner of those 2 fights fight for the belt. I don't think that'll happen.
I don't either.
I don't think the UFC
that would be amazing, mate. Because do you know what? The Oliveira, he needs another challenge for me before he gets a title fight. He has to fight again before he gets a title fight. And do you know what? If it's against Chandler, wow, styles make fights, and that would be amazing. Poirier versus Gaethje on the other side. What an absolute... That almost has to happen, mate. Yeah. Do you think it will, though?
I don't think we're going to see it booked. I think that McGregor holds too much star power and there's too many pay-per-view buys on the line. I think if you put McGregor against Poirier again, you can charge people 20 quid, and I don't think you can do that with either of the other fights without putting the belt on the line.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I think we're going to see the commercial side of the UFC take preference,
I think you're right,
we're going to see the third Poirier fight with McGregor.
Before. I think you had the perfect matchups. I think Chandler Oliveira and then Gaethje Poirier. However, there's obviously another fight we haven't mentioned, McGregor there, right? And where does he end up? And obviously, you've got Dan Hooker, you've got this, you've got that person. That's who I was about to say. I think McGregor, if you still want to get the paper buy, say pay-per-view buy, you still want to make the money, you still want to bring the viewers in, and you still want to do a good fight with people whose names are, in most people's eyes, right up there in the division, then McGregor-Nate 3 makes complete sense. That way, you get a win-win. You get your money from the McGregor shit, and McGregor can still win, it still boosts his stock, and still this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And you can also let the little tournament play out of the actual people that are really at the top, and you keep everyone happy, and everyone sort of sees it where it is and what 100%. It is. That's what I want to see this year.
And I think that is the best way to go. But
hopefully it will happen, mate.
Sean Shelby, you've got his number. Sort it out, mate.
Fuck's sake. Wait, there's one more outlandish thing that I'll have to say here. And this is going to sound crazy. This is what I want. It's what I want us to see near the end of this year, near the last 6 months of this year. There's one fighter, I think, that needs to be at 155. One fighter that can beat all of these guys with his hands, and he can stand face to face with them, and he's probably shown us already that he can beat these guys. And that's Max fucking Holloway. I want to see Holloway at 155. I think he beats all of them. I really do. I really do, right? And that's how reactionary I am. Because if you go back to 2 videos, I said that he was over his peak. You could be looking at the back end of Max Holloway's career right now. We definitely know he's probably over his peak. But then again, I still think he could actually get a title back. So, is he over his peak? I don't think he's better than Volkanovski. So, I'm saying this too. So, fuck it. It doesn't matter. I think Holloway could box the shit out of these lot. I'm completely confident in him beating Volkanovski. I've gone back and watched that fight. And I think he beats Volkanovski. I think he beats him. I think he actually does. And after seeing that, and after the stupid comments I made about him being over his peak or whatever, and you think, wow, that was actually his only losses, and that was probably a win. Shit, he beat the shit out of Cater, and fuck, maybe he could do it, you know? And I think I'd like to see that.
I would as well.
Come
I really would. Max Holloway, in terms of just the excitement of his fights and everything like that, I absolutely want to see it, and I can get on board. I think 145 as the division is spicy, so I don't think we're going to see him at 155.
But it's just an outlandish shout. It's just a shout.
I really like it.
Yeah. I'm coming back to this if it happens, alright? Well, fuck it. We'll go for it.
I'll give you a tenner if it does.
Alright, fucking hell. Alright, I'm up for that. You do a shot of vodka as well?
Yeah, I'll do a shot of vodka.
And a tenner.
And a tenner.
And a tenner. Okay, so thanks for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy it. It was so much fun talking about those fights. Honestly, I'm so glad to see McGregor back in the ring. Regardless, it's great for the fight. It's great for the UFC game. It's great for the fight game. Whatever it shall be in the future, it shall be. But you know what? A fucking great weekend. A great video to cap it off. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that cool shit. Anything from you, Moz?
Follow the Insta, and some great fights coming up.
Get down on Insta. It's down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Big up.